Hello, hello. We are back for yet another stream. Wednesday night stream. North American stream. Just American stream. Hello. Hopefully someone's here to join me. I know there were some people waiting before. Saturday stream was great. There was quite a few members who showed up. Oh, there's Spoctavian. All right. Howdy. Howdy, Spoctavian. Thanks for joining me. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, Saturday was good. We had lots of people. I think that's a good time for a lot of people because it's still evening over in Europe. I think it's first thing in the morning in Australia, maybe. And, of course, 2 in the afternoon here in Central America. Seems to be a good time. So as time goes on, if people like that time slot better than this one, then maybe I'll go to that one alone. I don't know. I'm playing with this whole format to see what's going to work. So hello to my members and hello to all my viewers who are tuning in after the stream. Once again, if you do want to participate in the stream itself, consider becoming a patron or a member of the YouTube channel memberships. I don't mind this time slot. I just don't always remember. Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing about doing 2 different nights in alternating weeks. It's not like it's every Thursday night at 9, right? It's, well, 1 week it's Wednesday night, and then the next week it's Saturday afternoon, and then the following week it's Wednesday night again. So it's a bit weird. I'm just going to go with it for a few months and see how it works. And if people like it, I'll keep doing. And if they don't, then I'll change it. Vortac, hello, evening or morning, everyone. I don't know if the Australians are in the morning right now. That's a guess. I could do the conversion, but I'm too lazy. They're in tomorrow. I know that. They live in the future. In the future. We're hamburgers eat people. Hello. So, I'm super tired tonight. I did not sleep very much last night. Lots of work in the Broken Empires, and lots to do. But it's looking good. We're really moving forward now. We didn't have to. We got a couple of new artists on board, which are really cool. They're providing a new, they're providing a slightly different artistic interpretation of a few things to help pad out some of the stuff in the book. There's lots of pages in the book, man. There's 500 odd pages. So we're going heavy on the art because I believe that art helps sells a game. And it sells an atmosphere as well. One of the reasons why I was so in love with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition back in the late 80s is because of the art, which, of course, went hand in hand with the setting, right? The sort of early Renaissance, Holy Roman Empire, Germanic kind of setting, where it wasn't your bog standard fantasy. There's elements of bog standard fantasy, but it was very different and yet not alien. But the art sold it. Oh my God, it was so great because it was like a Grimm's fairy tale kind of thing. It was like a game of D&D if Terry Gilliam was running it, you know? So art's important. Art can sell a game or kill a game. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people I only care about the rules. But for me, it's the total package. It's looking at the total package. It's saying, hey, this is a good-looking game. We took pride in making sure that it's a good-looking game. Anyway, so, very tired, and I'm going to not fall asleep. I have a couple of patrons who are talking to me. Oh, Dan, this is my new, I think this is my new, one of my new patrons. It's already tomorrow, and I'm trying to stay awake. I guess that's Dan in Australia, maybe? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? I have a couple of questions and comments I want to answer and talk about. I had a patron named White Lion who sent me a message. I'm going to try and get through this question. It's a long question, and I'm going to talk about that. But first, Vortex says, art is the attraction for many that sets the tone for what elements make up the game. Absolutely. A picture, as they say, is worth, is it 10 words? Something like that. I agree with the sentiment on art. I really like the character creation spread you shared a while back in the update. Good. I'm glad you did. I like it too. It's looking good. Every time I show pieces of this to people, those people all say, wow, this is a beautiful looking game. So that's awesome. That's what we want. I had one very prominent YouTuber say, WotC has all the money in the world and they can't begin to approach making a book as good looking as this. So they're that. True, one man's opinion, but a smart man and a good opinion. I guess that was just shared a couple weeks ago. Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, it was. It feels like months and months and months ago. And yet, to me, it feels like it was yesterday, too. There will be more goodies in store as we get closer to the release. I'll be talking more and more specifics, and I'll be releasing a few more things visually to show you guys where we're at. Anyway, so White Lion says... he was talking about a story I shared about where I was playing a 5e game, and I was playing a dwarven cartographer whose my whole goal as the player, was not to lead the group because they were new players. So I wanted to ensure that they had an experience of making their own choices. So I took a back seat, and that's hard for me because I see players doing wrong things, and I want to leap in because I want to win because I'm a bad player. But nonetheless, I was very proud of myself. I played a backseat character and just let them drive, and it was actually great. It was actually really cool to see new players be so awestruck by what was going on, and they have to live or die by their choices. So it was really great. Anyway, so about the cartographer dwarf, when you let other players decide, and your precise definition of balance as not being players only finding challenges of their level, but having access to the tools to engage with the world in a meaningful way without being the only correct way, got me thinking. What I was talking about there was, for me, the idea of game balance has nothing to do with, oh no, we're first level and we encounter a dragon. No, it's more system-wise, is there obvious flaws in the design? Is there obvious things like, oh, well, 200 swords are totally broken. You always carry a 200 sword, right? Stuff like that, right? There's no downside, that kind of stuff. That's what I mean by balance. Whiteland says, I wanted to ask you, as a veteran GM and now game designer, if you have ever considered accessibility as a separate topic or is an integrated part of the balance. Let me define accessibility, because of course it's a broad term. I call accessibility the consideration of a wider audience than the default target, so the game can reach more people that want to play without sacrificing the core. So a great example you gave is the explicit management of infection and the option to be ignored in the Broken Empires. So, what I think this question is have you ever considered accessibility as a separate topic, or is it an integrated part of the balance? So, when it comes to Broken Empires, and I don't know if I'm fully understanding this question, but I will answer it as best I can based on what I think it is. When it comes to Broken Empires, I have said from the beginning, this is not a game for beginners. Now, that doesn't mean that it's impossible to learn for beginners. Not at all. In fact, in the opening chapter, in the introduction, in the game designer's notes, I talk about how, I was playing Rollmaster at age 10. So if I could figure out Rollmaster at age 10, anybody can figure this game out at any age. But that's it. It is not for beginners. It is not an introductory game. And so many games are, right? Kelsey just sent me Shadow Dark, which I didn't actually have up to this point. She sent me a lovely inscription, a little hardcover. That's great. And in Shadow Dark, it's designed for beginners. It's designed for people who've never played before, which is probably why I'm going to run it for my friends in Miami who are desperate to play a game. They've never played anything before. And I'm like, you know what? We're gonna get back to basics. We're going to play something super basic. I was going to do D&D, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do D. I'm going to do something else. I'm doing Shadow Dark, or my own version of Shadow Dark, because, of course, I've made a bunch of house rules already. Anyway, the point is, it's designed for beginners. And so many games, especially in the OSR space, right, your classic D20 system, in that space, so many games are designed for beginners. And that makes perfect sense. They want new people. They want new blood. They want people to come in. That was not a design goal for me with the Broken Empires. My target demo, my target audience, were people like me, people who had been playing for a long time, and they wanted a little more meat on the bones, but they didn't want to go full simulation. So therefore, in the beginning chapters of the book, I come out and say that this is not for beginners. However, it's also not rocket science, right? But you do have to learn it. It's not something you can just pick up and have a casual read through and, oh, yes, we can play this. Like, you do have to learn it. And again, you don't need a degree. It's not a master's program. It's a game, and it's not particularly complicated. But there are a lot of dials and bells and whistles that if you really want to engage with the totality of the experience, then yeah, it's going to take a little bit of effort. As one supporter has said to me, you should make a t-shirt that says, "Gaming is work." Maybe I will. So, a great example of this you gave is the explicit management of infection and the option to be ignored in the Broken Empires. I would never ignore the infection rules, but I understand that I understand it's not going to be to everybody's taste. So consequently, I do put a lot of things in the book that indicate that many things are optional, right? Tons. There's even a section in the Game Master section, chapter rather, called, where is it? It's called, down here. It's called, it's called Streamlining the Game. And I go through all the main bits of the game, and I give my ideas on how you can really streamline the game to make it run way faster, if speed is what you're going for. But the fact is, if you're playing this game, speed is probably not number one on your list. Now, one of the selling points of the game is that it gives you all kinds of detail while still being reasonably fast, but it's reasonably fast. As I've said a million times, and we'll say again, every game is on a spectrum between detail of resolution and speed of resolution. And Broken Empires very much is on the detail of resolution side, and every time you move over to one side, you must necessarily move away from the other. However, the design goal was to keep it as much to the middle as possible without losing too much detail in the resolution, but also understanding that it's not going to be as snappy and quick as something like Shadow Dark, right? It's just physics. It's just the way it is. Rules light moves faster, but faster is not always the principal design goal, and it wasn't here either. That said, I do want to provide options for people who do want to have a slightly different experience. Now, I also say in that chapter that if you go and remove these things in order to make your game faster, you will have a faster game, but you will also lose the detail, which purportedly is the whole reason why you're playing this game in the first place. So do with it as you will, essentially. So I don't know if that answers your questions or not, but I hope so. Do let me know, Whiteline. My grandsons 10 and 7 play Shadow Dark with me for 2 hours. They pay attention and love the creativity, plus are using critical thinking without realizing it. Isn't the game just the best thing for kids? It exercises critical thinking skills. It exercises math skills, provided you're not playing at a VTT where you just click a button and the computer does everything. It exercises math skills. It exercises social cohesion. People have to learn to work together. They have to play as a team. They have to cooperate in order to achieve their goals in the game. It exercises imagination. I mean, it is just, as far as I'm concerned, the role-playing game is a miraculous thing, especially for kids. And I say that as a kid who came to it at age 7, you know? All the things it teaches you words. It teaches you how to read. My God, I grew up with Gary Gygax's 1977 Dungeon Master's Guide. The words that I knew at that age because of that book, I probably shouldn't have known them, but I did. It taught me how to read. It taught me how to think bigger. Taught me how to think outside the box. So I think that's great, Vortak. I think that's fantastic, and I think your grandkids are going to be way better off for having engaged in the hobby. You maybe talked about it before, but will the Broken Empires have something akin to madness or stress? That's a really good question, Spucktavian. So, not at present. There is an optional rule, which is probably going to go in a future publication, dealing with that kind of thing. But there's a reason why. The focus of the game is not horror fantasy. It's not mad. It's not like a Warhammer, right? Or a Delta Green. It's not about that. It could be about that. Certainly a GM is free to make their personal games as horrific as they want. But by default, the mechanics are not supporting that because it's not about that. It changes a game a lot when you bring madness and stress into it, and not in a bad way. It just alters it in a way that was not my default desire to present the game as. But I'm sure that going forward, those madness and stress mechanics will be released in some form or another. Like I said, maybe in some advanced player's guide or GM's guide, or who knows? If the game does well, there will be more publications where all of these optional rules can be added. So I have thought about it, and I do have a version of those rules in my head. Well, they're also written down. They just didn't make it to the main book because I was like, well, it's not really... We're running out of space here, and I can't put everything in there as options, so... I don't remember if you mentioned this. This is Vortek again. What's the take in the Broken Empires on magic items, including weapons, etc.? I know the premise is not like a treasure haul style, but wondered what your take on this is. So, magic in general, there's 5 bounded laws of magic, and one of those bounded laws is the law of mystery, which basically means that there are more things under the sun, Horatio, than our imagination can comprehend, or whatever that quote is. It just gives the GM license to be able to explain away anything odd and unexplainable by it's magic and no one knows. It's ancient magic, whatever. Now, you don't always use that, right? In fact, you should very, very, very only occasionally use that, because it can feel very cheap if you just go, I don't know, it's magic, you don't know. But it's a nice get-out-of-jail card to give yourself license to introduce magic items that don't necessarily follow the bog standard rules of the game. But that said, the bog standard rules of the magic system in this game are wide open. So there's many, 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 many different things you can do. That said, there are enchanting rules for creating magic items. But a lot of the time, magic items would be stuff that a spell weaver puts together for a very specific use in the moment. It's comparatively easy for a spell weaver to whip up a magical breastplate, or a sword that does extra damage or something. Comparatively easy, but not necessarily cost-free, because of course magic is always about the cost to try and control the spell. And the more crazy it is, the more it defies reality, the more likely the weave's going to react, and that could be very bad. But it's comparatively simple as long as you have the training and the correct bind and strand combination to do stuff like that, right? But then you do also have items that are permanent. That's hugely costly, but it can be done. So, there's a whole chapter on enchanting. There's a whole chapter on, using weave reagents for making potions and stuff, alchemy. There's all kinds of rules in there. And I have a couple of master treasure tables in the book as well for the GM to be able to roll and come up with, But honestly, it's not like D&D, man, in so many ways. You're not going to find, here's yet another +1 sword. No. It's not like that. If anything, you're going to find, if you find magic weapons, they're probably going to be masterwork weapons, right? Things that are really well made. Or you could find magic weapons that don't actually give you any bonus, but they do count as magic, and that's a huge deal because there are creatures in the world that cannot be affected by anything other than magic. So that's a big deal. But it's low power mostly. But again, because the magic system is so wide open, you can do whatever you want with it, basically. Live play with my grandsons. They had to problem solve, and it was awesome to see it happen. Love play, yes, I would imagine. Yeah, that's really cool. Pitbull 1568, hello, howdy, how are you? Thanks for joining. Eric is back with us. Hello, Eric. My daughter told me the other day that in a creative writing class, the teacher presented how to build and come up with your own world and regions using an oracle. Amazing for a high school class. It sure is. That's great. That is great. The oracle from the solo role-playing games, no matter which one you use, is probably my favorite tool ever, because it really taps into that imagination and it really focuses your creativity in a way that channels it to something good and useful. And anything that engages kids' imaginations like that isn't on a screen, I am 100% for. That's fantastic. That is a good teacher. Give that teacher a raise. I wish my high school teacher was that cool in 1989. Yeah, no kidding. Although I had some pretty great teachers. My drama teacher, especially, Gary Cousins, was fantastic. But Yeah, I had a great teacher in junior high or middle school, as they say in the States. We're down here in Texas anyway. We had a social studies class, and in that class, one of the exercises we had to do was we had to build a country. And how we did that was totally up to us. But everything we created for the country, whether that was a flag or a national anthem or a breakdown of the military capabilities or the trade routes or whatever, you got points. And so eventually, the class was busted up into different groups. And eventually each group, each country had to sort of interact with each other. And it could lead to war, it could lead to peace, whatever the case is. But it was just the teacher being the arbiter, right? It would have been so much greater if there was a randomizer element like the Oracle that could have channeled a little bit of randomness like that. But they didn't think of that back then. Sentient swords are actually just the consciousness of the sorcerer that had a bad weave reaction trying to enchant it. Sure, why not? It can be. It absolutely can be. Do you have any advice besides playtesting over and over on porting mechanics across games, trying to incorporate bonds, a la Delta Green, and morality to phase rip and want to run it well? Yeah, well, that's all the Broken Empires is porting elements of other games across platforms into one gargantuan giant beast of a platform. But in terms of specific advice, yeah, what looks good on paper does not necessarily translate to good at the table. So yes, testing is very important. Because when you take a concept, well, let's go back to the madness thing, right? Like somebody had asked me about what about madness and stress in the Broken Empires? And I said, no, I don't want to do that here, but I could. And at one point I did take a madness system, which was kind of inspired a little bit by Unknown Armies, and brought it over. Once mechanics start to interact with other mechanics, you really have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the math. I'm not a math guy, but there's lots of tools out there that help me do that, including very smart friends. Because a little tiny change in the numbers can really cause gigantic ripple effects down the road. So that's what I would say. I would say conceptually, if you want to bring bonds from Delta Green over to a game, that is conceptually very easy to do. But you have to ask yourself two things. One, what is the effect on the atmosphere of the game going to be? Because you really change the feeling of the game when you do that. Because if you're using bonds exactly as they exist in Delta Green, in which they are people in your life upon whom you project your own insecurities to avoid going mad and ultimately destroy those relationships, that says a very, very specific thing about what kind of game you want to run. It's a very nihilistic, dark, almost depressing kind of game by default. So if you bring that idea to a new game, just know that, if you bring it to your bog standard 5e game, that 5e game is going to be pretty rough. But maybe that's what you want. But in terms of the system itself, I would say just try and reduce it down to its lowest common denominator, reduce it down to its most basic thing. Ask yourself, what exactly is this system designed to do? Is it designed to create a meaningful choice for the player? And if so, good, that's the first step. Then you need to find out how the numbers work and if it's going to interfere with any other existing systems. And I don't know exactly what you're talking about, so I can't speak to specifics, of course. You say you want to run this to phase rip. I don't know phase rip well enough. I just know that it's the chart game where you've got, green, red, you go down and you roll percentiles and it's a bash or it's a kill or it's a whatever. I don't know it well enough to be able to comment specifically. But yeah, just understand that the concepts you're bringing in are going to change the feel of the game, and it's also going to change the numbers. So just make sure you're well aware of that, and then try it. I mean, test it, try it. Maybe it works, and if not, you can alter it, right? You can change it as you go. That's what playtesting is just knowing that the numbers are going to change. They're going to be tweaked. It's just how it works. My social studies teacher was a wargamer. Lucky you. and had one of the old Avalon Hill games on one of the tables in his class. And I always was interested and wanted to play, but he was a bit of a grump. My drama teacher, who I mentioned, Gary, he was a huge Axis and Allies player. And when we were in rehearsals for the play, very often, he lived right by the school, very often we'd all go over to his house, which we probably shouldn't have done, but it was a different time. It was the 80s. And play Axis and Allies. And he always had a couple of different boards set up. One of them was his board with his friends, and that stayed there like 12 months of the year because they played so slowly. That never got touched. But then there was other things, there was the other games we could play, but it was Axis and Allies. It was always about World War II strategy. So great. And then I had a professor in university. I was a classics minor, so my minor was in like Greek and Roman history. And the best professor I ever had, I can't remember his name, but he was this old guy, and he was fully into the tactical details of key battles. And I remember, man, we were talking about, I don't know, the battle at Mycenae or something. And he busts out the whiteboard and he's marking down like, and then this unit of cavalry flanked around the hill to take this enemy of infantry in the rear. And I was like, this is the best. And all the girls in the class were like, and my God. But I thought it was the best. The best. Appreciate the advice. Yes, of course. That's why you're here. That is why you're here. Feel free to ask me anything. And if I can help you, I will, right? And if I can't, I'll let you know. I played Avalon Hill Tobruk as a kid. Fun game, but not a simple system. Yeah, I had a lot of Avalon Hill games, but I never really played a lot of them because they were very complex. The one I had, I'm pretty sure it was Avalon Hill. It was just called World War II, and it was a bookcase game, right? So it came in a box, and it was all hex and chits, right? Where you stack the units on top of each other in the hex. So you'd have a stack of armor going through the Ardennes forest, right? And each hex was a couple miles or whatever it was. Very much like a hex crawl, except you're dealing with war games. And that was really complicated for my young mind. I would be really curious to see it now, to see if I could figure it out. But a lot of those games back then, now I look back in those games and I kind of feel like a lot of that stuff was just complicated for complication's sake, That's what it feels like now. I'm sure, of course, every designer has a rule or has a reason for the rules they put in there, but looking at that stuff now, I'm like, wow, did you really need to make it this complex? And I see that a lot more now that I've designed this game, The Broken Empires. I see it everywhere now. When I see, like I said, I'm running kind of a palate cleanser game for some of my friends, a Shadow Dark game, just to kind of go really light and just have some fun. But, of course, I'm house ruling because that's what we do. And so I start to see other people's house rules for Shadow Dark out there. And I look at these rules that they're introducing and I think, but is it fun? Are you adding this complexity that you're building in? Is it fun? Does it create a meaningful choice for the character? That's really the thing. I can tell you, if that's one thing I've learned having done this now, that as a game designer in the RPG world, the thing that you should be thinking of all the time is, does this rule create a meaningful choice for the player? Because if it doesn't, it's probably no good. Most of the time. For example, in this Shadow Dark game I'm running, I have this little hack where I've introduced armor as an armor die that reduces damage. But there's a couple of little cool things in there. It's not just you roll, if you're wearing leather, you roll a d6 and you subtract that much damage from the incoming hit. There's a couple other things in there. The armor doesn't always work. So if you roll a natural 1, the hit bypasses the armor. You think, oh no. But you have the choice at that moment to degrade the armor to the next lower die and then roll again. And if it rolls a 1 again, you're screwed. But so this is super fun at the table, and it gives the players a feeling of choice. Like they can choose to degrade their resource in order to try and, lessen the blow of the hit or save their life. So that choice is important, because before I had it where you just roll a 1 and it degrades automatically. And that really had a lot of implications for how useful armor is over the long haul, which is not very. But it also meant that you get punished twice. You get punished from having rolled a 1, so the blow pierces your armor, and then you get punished again for degrading your armor. But you don't see that on paper when you first come up with the rule. You have to play that. Or in my case, I had to play it. And as soon as it hit the table, I realized, oh, there's no choice here. So as soon as I added in the idea of players having a meaningful choice to decide to degrade the armor, change it. And it was fun. I'm still not 100% on it. I'm still not sure if it is, the right thing to do for my game. But so far, so good. Anyway, yeah, it's just, like I said, it's just running a little palette cleanser off of the super heavy stuff that I've been focused on with Broken Empires. So it is nice to do that. I had the Avalon Hill Wizard Realm, I think. Very complicated for a 10-year-old. I think I remember that, Eric. I think, but I'm not exactly sure. For the Broken Empires Oracle that you worked on with Tana, are you implementing the random event focus and event focus tables? Yeah, a version of it. So I've said before that the Oracle system and the solo system in the game is very heavily influenced by Mythic because that's the one that I know the best and the one I like the best. So yes, there are random event focuses, but it's a little slimmer than Mythic, than bog standard Mythic. There's not as much to deal with, so it's a little easier, but it'll be very familiar. The big thing in the game is, speaking of events, is just travel events on the road. Those things, like there's I don't know how many pages of tables that allow you to fabricate interesting events on the road. Not just wandering monsters, but this is a really cool thing that happened. How are the players going to deal with it? Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Jason, hello. Hello, Jason. Welcome back. Care to spoil a bit about how Godbound work in solo play? Well, I've talked about this before, so I think what you're referring to is the fact that the Godbound character doesn't know what their piety score is, right? And that is true if you're a player, but if you're doing a solo game, there's no real easy way to do that, because in a solo game, you're both the player and the GM. And frankly, every solo game I've ever ran, I'm more of a GM than a player. That's kind of the real hat I'm wearing is the GM hat, more so than the player hat. So for me, if I was playing a Godbound in the Broken Empires, I was playing solo, I'd be tracking the piety as a GM and then as a player just consciously trying not to notice it. Are there subsystems you could create to mask that from the player? Yes, but for me, the juice isn't really worth the squeeze on that one. So there's no secret. It's not really designed for that. And if you're going to solo it, you just, you know what your piety is and just pretend that you don't, right? Remember, too, that every time a Godbound asks their deity for something, regardless of the outcome, it costs them piety. So just asking is going to create a resource management test, basically, for the Godbound. So it doesn't really matter if you know how much you have. It's really great. Again, it's a great hidden resource if you're a player in a party with the GM, because the effect of it is that because you don't know how the standing you have with your god, you are incentivized to do priesty things to gain your piety back. That's the whole idea. So if you're just playing by yourself and I'm down to 35 piety, well, yeah, you know that you have to do something to get that back up. But it's also true with the normal player in a group game, too, because the GM is given advice in that section to basically warn the player. When the player gets down to sort of critical piety, they receive a vision from the god, which basically says, hey, buddy, you better shape up. And conversely, when their piety is super high, they get all these lovely dreams and things like this. So they do have a hint. So it's not like it's completely blind. So that's why it's not that big of a deal if you're playing solo, because you would have some idea if you're playing anyway. So it doesn't really bug me too much about that. So yeah, no crazy, clever little rule or anything. It's just you're the GM and the player at the same time. Like in so many things we do as solo players, we just have to wear both those hats simultaneously. I think Sunder Armor choice is cool. I've always liked it as a rule for Shattering Shields and OSR. Yeah, I have that rule too for my Shadow Dark game, which I really love my implementation of it. It's not the classic thing of I block all damage with the shield. No. It's based on the defense of the shield, because I don't use armor class, I use defense. Whatever, I don't want to get into that. Yes, choice is important. And by the way, you do have a similar choice in the Broken Empires. You can sunder a shield, or you can shatter a shield, I should say. or sunder a piece of armor. You do have that option. If you're about to be hit, it's a little thing a player can do where they can choose to destroy the shield or destroy the piece of armor to stop that hit from coming in. But then, of course, they're left without the piece of armor and it's destroyed. So, yeah, it's a choice the player can make. And that's what I like about it, you know? I like the fact that it is kind of a meta moment, right? Because technically the character would not be able to choose whether or not his breastplate shatters on that hit. So it is a little meta, which I tend to generally stay away from. But I think it's worth it in this case because it gives the player a last minute, like, get out of jail card if they absolutely need it. But it comes with a cost, right? Totally fair, just curious. Yeah. Yes, of course. Curiosity is good. Bring on the questions, friends. Bring on the questions. Character creation is such a huge part of the game, and I really love how Harnmaster does it. I think you did a video on character creation and absolutely loved how the Broken Empires will be. I did. Some stuff has changed. I'm going to do another one once we get closer to release because I'm going to release these tutorial videos. So going through the character creation will definitely be a part of that. But thank you. I'm glad you do dig it. Harnmaster is great. Harnmaster is very, very, I'd call it a top-heavy game in that you are doing all the work up front when you make the character, and it can feel overwhelming if you're not used to it. But once you do that, once you figure out all of your skills and your armor, protections, and all of that stuff, you never really have to worry about it again, typically. But a lot of people bounce off that. They're like, oh my God, wait a minute, to find a skill, I have to average 3 stats and then buy them separately, and oh my God, blah, 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 blah. But it's not hard. It's a product of its time. It was a game from the 80s, and that's how we did things back then. That's how we rolled. I admire the Harnmaster, and I'm talking specifically about the Columbia Games version. I admire the Harnmaster designers and players and all of the Harn guys because they're unapologetically embracing what they still embraced in the 80s. So you get this authentic experience from that game. That's why I love it so much. Yes, it's completely a product of its time. Any new schooler would look at Harnmaster and go, oh my God, how can you even play this? That's just like accounting. But it's not at all. Anyway. What if I just did that all the time? Okay. Question from patron Lachlan Smith. Hey, Trevor, I can't make it today. But could you talk about how your voice acting career and gaming have intersected over the years? How one skill feeds another? Yeah. So I've said before, I was very surprised when I started this channel because I had foolishly assumed, as it turns out, that my animation fans would love the show because there I am playing all the characters, doing all the voices. No, I didn't care. There's almost no crossover with the audiences. Completely different audience. However, my career as a voice actor and my quote-unquote career as a gamer are inextricably intertwined. My friends who I grew up with and I still game with today, in fact, I just saw them last night, virtually. My friends to this day, when they're watching some cartoon, they'll listen and they'll go, oh, yeah, that's that NPC from 1987. Remember we were playing Warhammer and we ran into that jeweler in Altdorf? Yeah, that's that NPC. So, yeah, I cut my teeth on my character voices in the game. Mostly, that's where I practiced. Because, of course, I was gaming long before I was a voice actor. So I learned so much about portrayal of NPCs through not only, attitude and character traits, but also products of the voice, whether that's an accent or a placement, right? Placement is like diaphragm, chest, throat, nasal, head, where the voice is powered from. So yeah, they are absolutely intertwined. Yeah, they have very much intersected over the years. There's still character voices I've done, or recently for shows that are voices I've used at the table. Which is cool, man, which is cool. Yeah, it's been a weird career. I'll say that because I was just telling my other gaming group this the other night. that I was in the gaming closet all the way up until 2019. I did not talk about being a gamer at all, because when I grew up in the 80s, you didn't talk about the game. No. If you ever wanted to kiss a girl, you didn't talk about the game. There was nothing cool about the game. Most people didn't even know what it was, but they assumed it was some geeky little hobby. And they were right. But, when you're competing for attention with the jocks, you can't be busting out the D20s, my friends. So I was in the so-called closet for years and years and years and years. And so the day that I started this channel was a big deal because, well, this is it. This is me coming out of the closet. And there I was, naked, in front of the world. And it turned out to be great because I found all of you, which was a very nice surprise. But I did think, as I said, that there would be animation fans of my work that would find this and go, oh, this is going to be great. We don't care that he's playing a game we have no interest in. So there wasn't a lot of crossover. By the way, you who are watching this, if you happen to be one of my animation fans who is also into this gaming stuff I do, let me know in the comments below, for real, because I suspect you're a unicorn. I suspect you don't exist. But I would love to be proved wrong. Have you picked up the new version of Pendragon? If so, do you like it? I have not picked up the new version. Pendragon, I have the very first boxed set edition sitting in the Sage's library. But I never played it. That's one of the big fish that has gotten away from me all these years. I never played it. Love the idea of it. Love the concept of generational play, which is also a big thing in the One Ring first edition. Probably second edition too, but I'm far more familiar with first. The idea of generational play, the idea that you are playing a campaign that takes place over 30 years or more. I think Pendragon was the first game that really championed that. Could be wrong, but I think they were. And I just never got around to it. And I'm always tempted. I'm always tempted. Every time I see the great Pendragon campaign, at Gen Con this past year, they were releasing the new version of Pendragon. I was like, oh, should I get it? But I knew, especially now with the Broken Empires, I don't have time. I don't have time to play all the games. This is really the great, this is the great plight of all of us. I'm sure everyone watching this right now has this problem, which is there's not enough hours in the day to play all of these incredible games. There are games on my shelf in the Sage's library that I'm desperate to play, and I just know I'll never get them to the table because there's too much. I've always wanted to run a quick game of the Cypher system, Monty Cook's game, because it's fairly simple. And that one maybe I could do, because that one I could do like a one-shot or maybe like a three episode arc. But there's another one like Ash and Stars. Ash and Stars is a game by Robin Laws, which is a sci-fi game kind of like Star Trek meets Firefly. It's episodic. It's the gumshoe system, which I'm not even a fan of, but I really want to run it. Will I ever get to the table? I doubt it. Aquilar, or Aquilara, or Aquilare, however you say it. Spanish game set in medieval Spain. Very similar to Harnmaster and Ars Magica in feel and kind of in mechanics. Love it. And what a work of art this game is. Sitting on my shelf for years. I would love to bring that. But I'm looking at that going, how on earth am I ever going to find the time to not only play these games, but to teach my players these games? Now, I'm very lucky. Most of my old gang back home, they'll play whatever I put in front of them. They'll learn whatever game. And my gang here, too. It's kind of hilarious because I'll say, I think I want to run Twilight 2000. Next thing I know, they've all got their Twilight 2000 books, and they're all memorizing the rules. And I'm like, oh, well, that's unusual. Normally, I have to do that work to teach you. So I'm very lucky that way. But I think that's a common problem we all have, is we don't have time. I agree. I have so many games I will die before I get to all of them. Yeah, I know. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Life is too short to not be gaming, I had a meeting with my guys here today, my design team, and I said, listen, we're all working on this game, on the Broken Empires. That's very important. We got to get this thing out to the people. But we also need to play. We need to remember why we need to come at this every Friday night. We need to schedule and do it. Just like how I used to run games all the time. It was once a week, hell or shine, rain or shine, hell or high water, we're playing. And yes, occasionally someone, whatever, broke their leg, whatever, couldn't make it. But once a week, discipline, do it, and it was the best thing ever. So we have to do that again because it's so easy to forget why we do this. Man, I was at Gen Con and we were out one night with like big heavy hitters, Luke Stratton of Pirate Borg and Kelsey, Professor Dungeon Master, and Mike Merles. And I remember Mike saying, I forget the exact words, but he was basically saying, boy, it would be so nice to play a game again. This is Mike Merles. One of the giants of the 5e world for sure, and now of Chaosium and all these other things. And I heard that, and I went, oh, that is a cautionary tale. I do not want to become that. I don't want to become the guy that's so invested in the creation of the games that he doesn't have time to play the games anymore. Like, that's a terrifying fate. So I have to make an effort to make sure that I don't suffer that fate. And I think we all do, right? You have to make the effort. And everybody's got different situations. Some people got wife and kids and jobs and all the stuff. You still got to make an effort, right? Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I personally think voice actors are the premium RPG players. The creativity resonates at a high level. I always love watching them play on many channels, including yours, of course. Well, thank you. I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. And I disagree with you because I think sometimes voice actors, especially, can be more interested in the performance than in playing the game. I have said many times that what I do on the channel, when I do the show, like the main show, it's a show. Now, I am playing the game, and everything is 100% legitimate, and I play the game exactly like that. Like you see me do, I'm just cutting out the stuff in between. But that is me. I'm not faking it. But I'm also aware that it's a show. I'm also aware that I'm performing. So it's not a truly authentic experience. And if you sit down with voice actors and there's cameras rolling, that's not an authentic game experience either. Because they're aware of the performance. If they're professional voice actors like I am. There's a part of their brain that knows the camera's on, we got to dial it up. So you're not seeing, and you're certainly not seeing, this is a big criticism of things like Critical Role, and this is not my argument, but I've heard people make this argument, that it's not a real game, that's not what our table looks like. Well, of course that's not what your table looks like. These are professional actors. Of course they're going to do what they do. Of course they know it's a performance. But your game is going to be filled with your friends, and you guys are going to love it, but no one else is going to want to watch it. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think games are a spectator sport at all. I've said that since the early 80s. Who would ever want to watch this? And yet people do. I couldn't believe it when Critical Role took off. I was like, so people are just watching someone else play a game? That was unfathomable to me, because a game is not a spectator sport. You got to be part of it. And yet here I am, completely proven wrong, because all these channels, including a certain Me, Myself, and I, where people tune in to watch a guy play a game. So I'm aware of the irony, dare I say, the hypocrisy here. But it to me, and I'll tell you, here's the thing with Critical Role. I can't watch it. I can't watch it because I know those guys, and I've worked with those guys. So when I watch it, all I see is us in session together. So it's not their fault. It's just the way it is. It's just like I have lots of celebrity friends, like Nathan Fillion, right? For example, when I went to see Saving Private Ryan in the theater, I think 93. Was it 93? No, not whatever it was, 97, whatever it was. I didn't know he was in it. And then he shows up. He's the first Private Ryan. And it ripped me right out of the movie, because I was like, oh, Nathan, why are you mumbling? I was his director again, right? I was trying to form his performance from the audience seat. So it ripped me out of the feeling. And that's kind of the same thing with Critical Role. It rips me out of the immersion, so to speak, because I know them. I've been in the room with them. I've done cartoons with them. So I have a hard time with that. But that's a me problem. That's what you call a me problem. I agree. RPGs as a kid, you're shunned as a nerd or demon worshiper. Yeah, well, Vortek, I'm sure you remember the Satanic Panic. That never really hit us in Canada like it did down here. We knew about the Satanic Panic, but to us it was just a big joke. It was like, the hell's the matter with these people? Don't they know it's all just make-believe? Like, we couldn't even conceive that anybody would begin to take this seriously. But they did. I've heard so many of your stories about that stuff. So, brutal. Sucks to have lived through that. But it was a real thing. Believe it or not, kids, there was a time when gaming was considered evil. Crazy. I think most of us from the 80s were in the gaming closet back in the day. That's probably true. It was hard to find gamers where I lived. So I don't know if I've told it the story before, but I love this story. So my friend Ross, he's my cartographer and setting co-designer on the Broken Empires. One of my best friends in the world. And this is a lifetime ago. This is maybe late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, it must have been early 90s because I was in university. He gets a job at Office Depot. And he's in the warehouse, right? He's dealing with the pallets, putting the pallets on trucks for shipments. So he meets this guy named Matt Vest, one day. And they're, putting the stuff in the truck, and then they get in the truck, and they take the shipment to wherever it's going. And as they're getting in, they're talking, and Ross is saying, "Oh man, that pallet was crazy heavy. God, that thing, I didn't expect it to be that heavy." And Matt said, "Yeah, geez, I mean, we barely had the strength to do it." And Ross said, "Yeah, it's almost like we needed some kind of like gauntlets of like ogre power or something." And Matt looked at him and went, "Or perhaps a girdle that would give us giant strength." And right away they knew, you're in the club. But they had to kind of dance around it. They had to pussyfoot their way around it for fear of giving yourself away, right? It's one of my favorite stories of all time. Yeah, we were all in the closet back then. That is for sure. I did a tally of my backlog with my table, and it would take over a year of regular 4-hour sessions to cover the more intriguing ones. I did a tally of my backlog with my table, and it would take over a year of regular 4-hour sessions to cover the more intriguing ones. The more intriguing sessions, do you mean? Totally stealing Heller Shine. I'm very tired, Pitbull. I don't know if you heard me say that at the beginning of the stream. My brain's not firing at all cylinders. Can you explain this a little more so I know what you're referring to? I think I do, but I want to make sure. Jason, previously I mentioned preferring Alien RPG to Mothership RPG, and you said you had had some thoughts on Mothership. Are you ready to share? He says, vaguely threateningly. Okay, so I will talk about Mothership. So I don't know. Let me just say this. I don't know enough about Mothership to give what I would consider to be a definitive or authoritative critique at all. Played it a handful of times. That's it. And it was at a con. It was a Gen Con. Baron Durop was running the game. So my first thoughts about Mothership were, this is a game. It's a horror game where basically everybody dies. You're the crew of the Nostromo. You're going to die, right? Maybe you'll be lucky and be Ripley. Escape to be in the next session. So, okay, great. It's a con game. I'm into it. But then I saw this system, and the system seemed so complicated for a game that you weren't really expect to play for very long that I kind of went, it was a disconnect for me. I was like, why is this game so... Why are they going into all these details about all these different skills you can have when you're probably going to be dead in an hour? So that was a weird disconnect. And again, I do not have enough experience to be able to authoritatively make a criticism of Mothership. I'm just telling you that was my very limited experience with it. Also, I think, if I recall, tell me if I'm wrong about this, Jason, isn't Mothership the game that incorrectly reads a d100 where double zeros is 0 instead of 100? Ah! That drives me crazy. Maybe that was enough for me to go, to hell with this game. Everybody talks about is it the Warden's Guide? Is that what they call the GM? The Warden's Guide. Everybody talks about it as being this great primer on old school play. Never read it, but I should. It's on the list. It's one of the things I want to, because everybody talks about this game. They talk about its presentation as well. It's a great box set and everything. These guys did a really great job in presenting the game. But to me, I look at Mothership and I think, if I wanted to get this feeling of Alien I just play Alien because the system seems to be more tailored towards that experience. I have played Alien more than I've played Mothership. And I feel like Alien, appropriately, feels more like an Alien game than Mothership does. But, yeah, I don't know. There was just some things about the character creation that made me go, okay. And also, and again, I could be misremembering this, but it seemed to me that your skills were so low that you failed all the time. So it felt a bit like the whiff fest that was first edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where everybody was so terrible at everything, you're going to fail. That's hilarious for the first 10 rounds, and then you're like, I gotta, especially when it's a survival game and you have to succeed. And maybe they do that on purpose, maybe to ramp up the tension, I don't know. But to me, it was just irritating. It was like, I can't do anything. I'm just going to get killed. Like, what's the point? But 2 sessions, I only played twice. So, again, I am not the guy to give any authoritative critique on this. But one of these days, I'm going to have to read that Warden's Guide and the entirety of the Mothership game to see. I don't remember now but the d100, but that is a heresy. Yes, it certainly is. I so rarely see that in games where they misread the dice, where they say it's 0 is 0 and that goes to 99. Guys, it's in the name. It's a d100, not a d99. It's literally in the name. Thank you for confirming that it isn't just me. It is not just you, believe me. I see sometimes, and maybe some of you watching this after the stream are going to get upset at me at this, but I see sometimes these people who come on and tell me that I'm misreading my own percentile dice, and they bust out this bizarre calculation about how to read dice, and I don't even, it's like, well, you roll a 99, but then you subtract 10 from it, and then you actually have an 80, and I'm just like, what? Or you roll the dice and you read the numbers on the dice and that tells you what you rolled. That might be the easier way to do it. That's a great way for 50 years to generate a number between 1 and 100. And even if you are the lunatic that wants to make it from 0 to 99, fine, then 0 is 0, even though that's stupid. But these people with this bizarre thing where they come out, and the thing is, I've seen people in the comments talk about this way of reading dice. I have never in 50 years, well, 45 years, I'm not that old, never in 45 years in my entire history of gaming, over hundreds of systems, have I ever seen a game with that bizarre way of reading a D100. Never. And so maybe it's some weirdo new school thing that came out of the Gen Z generation. I have no idea. But it's bizarre to me, and I see it every now and then. It's rare, thank God, but every now and then someone will come, well, you actually, when you roll a 99, it actually means it's 88 because you didn't, blah, blah, and I'm just like, what? Why are you needlessly complicating this? Roll the dice, look at the number. Oh, I know, crazy, right? Anyway, where are we at here? 58 minutes. Well, that's a long time. Any last questions before I call it here? I'm very tired. Oh, very tired. Oh, my goodness. I'll give you a second, just in case there are. There's a couple of you on here still, which is good. I know these are small groups, which is kind of nice for you guys, right? Because you get my full attention. But that is the whole point about this, is that the members can engage in this kind of dialogue and we can have a conversation, and it's kind of cool. Eric says, in The Broken Empires, I really like your version of dwarves that you've created. What inspired you to take them to the sky in the stone ships? So, in The Broken Empires, the dwarves exist in these giant stone ships in the sky, instead of in the mines. Now, they did live in the mountain, in the mines, so their origins were like Tolkien dwarves, right? But in this version of the world, the dwarves took to the skies because there was a great cataclysm in their kingdom. The dwarves used to control tons. It's kind of a riff on the old elves and dwarves ruled the world for a while, although they were never really at war with each other. But when the cataclysm happened, which is the subject of the module you can buy on the Broken Empire store, actually, it's called The Dwarven Cataclysm. It's a weird high fantasy adventure. It's a weird high concept thing. I didn't write it, but you know, I was certainly part of the design team that went into it. Just an unusual adventure for the rest of the stuff, but it does tell the story about that, or allows the characters to participate in the story of the Dwarven Cataclysm. So you do get to see why it happened the way it did and why the dwarves are in their stone ship. So in terms of my inspiration, I mean, it was Rogue Trader. Mostly. I like the idea that the dwarves forgot their history, much in the way that humanity has forgotten their history in Warhammer 40k, and that they're told what to do and they're told what to think and how to think by these sky priests who know how to keep the stone ships aloft, except they really don't. They make a big production out of it. They make a big holy production. You must anoint the holy gears with the unguents and say the words and press the correct gemstones in the right thing, and therefore the stone ships will keep us aloft. But in the end, they don't know how it works either. It's just rote. They just know if they keep doing this in this exact order, then the stone ships stay up. And it's a heresy in the dwarven culture to ask about your own history. So there's all kinds of cool stuff in there. So yeah, a lot of it was 40k inspired in terms of that sort of oppressive theocracy state that's like forbidding inquiry. So that was a big part. And I just thought it was cool, and I wanted something a little different too. And honestly, it just came to me one day. I think I probably just threw it out as a spitball. What if the dwarves lived in giant stone ships? And there it was. It forever became canon. You're my favorite parasocial relay. That's great. I didn't even know what the word parasocial meant until Dave Thalmavor used it. He said, wow, yeah, you know, parasocial relations. And I was like, what is that? He said, well, you're a YouTuber, so you have a lot of them. Okay, Trevor, go get some sleep. Thanks again for providing us this time with you. Well, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it, guys. This is fast turning into one of my favorite weekly activities, is to do these chats. I wasn't sure if I'd dig it, but I do like it. I like talking to you guys and swapping stories and stuff like that about the old days. Anyway, that's cool. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. My next stream is going to be, some other time. Some other time. When is it going to be? Not this weekend. I actually have to go to NEPA Comic-Con in Scranton, Pennsylvania this weekend to appear as a guest at the Comic-Con there, so that'll be cool. The 28th, Saturday the 28th at 2 p.m. Central Time is when I will be coming back to the On the Table, but I will, of course, put out the message to all of the members and such. Thank you, Vortek. Thank you, Pitbull. Take care, everyone, and we will see you all in the near. And again, if you do want to be part of this chat, consider joining us on Patreon or here on YouTube. Okay, bye.